Hello and welcome. We are so glad to have you with us here today. I'm Diane Smokorowski, and I'm a Skype Master Teacher and the 2013 Kansas Teacher of the Year. And with me today is Frantz from the Intrepid Space Museum. We're going to jump in just a little bit here. While we're going, I need you to post in the chat, if you could be so kind, and share with us your location and what it is that you teach. Give you a few moments. Oh. All right. Looks like we have friends from Spain today, and Serbia, and Poland, and France. France, we got people from France here today. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I see
All
Dubai
right.
as well.
In Tennessee, we've got folks from all over today. But we want to officially welcome you. And we were just kind of dreaming about how can we help teachers be more prepared for this hybrid or blended learning environment, remote teaching, whatever model comes your way, and help you explore the concepts of STEM in that space. So I'm Diane Smokorowski, and Frantz, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Probably should unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Frantz Lucien. I'm the manager of interactive experience and family engagement at the Intrepid Sea and Space Museum in New York City. For those who don't know what the Intrepid is, it is a large aircraft carrier that is now a museum on the West Side Highway in the Hudson River. And I've been there for a little over about 6 years now. And then been doing virtual programming and virtual field trips for about 4 of those 6 years. So I've been doing it for quite some time. So I'm a huge advocate for virtual field trips and virtual programming as a whole.
Awesome. And I've been using Skype in the classroom since 2012. And I stumbled upon it of how could I help my students reach the world? And I've just been a super fan ever since. So let's go exploring. First off, in the chat, could you please share with us what you love about STEM learning? What is it that you really love to see happen with students as they explore these STEM concepts? So if you can put that in the chat for us today. Give a moment to do that. And while they're typing that in, Frantz, why do you love STEM learning?
So I think I love STEM learning just because of pretty much what it opens the door for, right, for students. We live in a world right now that's integrated with technology all around us. Technology is everywhere, and this is during this pandemic. This is the perfect example of how technology is in the forefront. So I think that as time continues on, STEM education and STEM integrating STEM into everyday life is something that's just going to become more and more commonplace. So I think teaching students STEM at such a young age not only prepares them for that world of technology and science, technology, engineering, and math, but it also gives them tools so that they can be more competitive in the future in STEM fields. So I think STEM learning, and also it connects itself really well. I'm not sure if there's anyone that's at history, but it connects itself really well with history as well, connecting history and STEM. Which is something that we do at the museum quite frequently, fostering historic lessons with a STEM undertone. So I think STEM education is very vital. And I also think it's very dynamic for students to have a dynamic tool.
Agreed. And I love some of the other posts that we're getting in the chat, that they love the curiosity and the hands-on experiences that it comes with a STEM environment. Students having ownership. Lanny, I love that. It's good to see you, Lanny. It gives opportunities to nurture innovation. And I think that is so important as we help to imagine what the future could be. And we always think future being something so far in the distance, but we all know that the future is tomorrow right now. And the day after that is a new future as the world is changing so rapidly. Having those students feel like they can be innovators and actually not just feel, but know it by the experiences that we design for them, that is going to set them up for whatever future comes in and around the corner. So that being said, I'd also like to know in our chat, what virtual field trip experiences, if any, have you had with your students? And Lanny, I know you've gone all over the world, but I'm very curious of maybe one or two of your favorite destinations, if you've gone on a few of these with students. And Frantz, while they're typing, what is the furthest distance have you had in a virtual field trip?
I think the farthest I've been was India. I think
That's awesome.
the farthest. We've actually done programming on 6 of the 7 continents. We haven't done anything on in Antarctica yet. I'm not sure if we will, but we've done 6.
We got to work on that one.
And it's been great. It's been awesome. I think that they're just fun. They're nice breaks in my day. You know, I get to talk to people who I never probably will have the opportunity to talk to without technology. So it's pretty awesome to have that experience with them using virtual field trips. Also, just to make sure, is this the Lanny that I think it's the Lanny from Wales?
Okay, it is.
So welcome. Hi, because I saw a comment from him and I was like, oh, wait, I know him. Welcome. We've done programs together.
And Amy, hi Amy. She's gone to Antarctica with penguins. That's one of my favorite field trips, Amy. I'm glad you chose that. But Frantz, you have a fan in here. Someone from DC Public Schools works with pre-K babies. They have Skyped with you.
Oh, awesome.
Intrepid Space Museum. So that's super cool.
Oh, awesome.
Port Lobos, Lanny loves Intrepid. He says that you were kind enough to go back and to do back-to-back calls with his kids while they did a sleepover at their school. So he's really excited.
Yeah,
all right. So some of our friends already know the power of virtual connections. And I'm going to shift just a moment here. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've been involved in a national STEM fellowship with Boya Bank and with State Teachers of the Year, as well as early career educators. And we've been doing this study on what does it mean to be a rock star STEM educator. And through our research and what science has told us and what experiences and working with students, these 6 elements are the ones that have risen to the top. So what are the characteristics of a rock star STEM educator? It's somebody who promotes curiosity. Some of you already put that in the chat. You engage with real world research, problem solving, global connections with practitioners like Frantz. He's a STEM guy every day, all day. And having your students connect with someone like that is not only inspirational, but it makes learning relevant. Collaborating with the private sector, promoting empathy and vulnerability, which is one of the harder things that we have to try to do as educators. But isn't it interesting that STEM education and empathy and vulnerability all go together? They're great elements for all teaching, but I love that they're also featured in STEM. And the ability to foster positive relationships among students, also good in every educator environment, and that hands-on learning. And I'm curious, friends, in the chat of numbers 1 through 6, can you type in the number of the one that you believe is the most important to you? Could you do that for me? And while those are coming in, Frantz, you get a moment here. Which one of these really resonates to the top?
6.
There's really no wrong answer, but go ahead.
6, I already know 6. 6 has always been, when I saw that was on the list, that was the one that was like target signs and lights and arrows pointing at it. That to me is like something that's so understated in education, is the ability to create excitement in the classroom, to get kids excited about learning, meeting kids where they are, utilizing technology. Kids use technology all the time. So meeting them where they are, having them sit in YouTube culture is huge nowadays. Kids watching and learning from YouTube. So this is pretty much learning from that and utilizing that in a very, very dynamic and engaging way. And so creating that excitement, getting kids excited to do virtual programs is, I mean, when I was a kid, I was pretty much a nerd, so I really liked learning. But when I was a kid, there were times when like I would get bored with class, it's because it was just like, just sitting there reading, but if I had someone from another place who was talking about something that I was interested in that I could watch on a screen, not only does that would that have engaged me, but it would have caused me even to participate even more and try to do some extensions to learning.
And a lot of our friends agree with you. Number 6 is a very popular one. And then number 2 is also quite popular. With 4 running a close third of that empathy and vulnerability. But absolutely, we've got a 1, that promoting the curiosity, inquiry, and failure, that failing forward piece. And you really can't go wrong in any of these. But now let me switch this up for you, friends. Let me have you look at this list again. Except which of these do you think would be the hardest to teach an early career educator to do? Think about that for a moment. Because these are not skills that you're born with as a STEM educator. These have to be fostered and coached. Which of these 6 do you think is the most difficult to teach another educator? What do you think, Frantz?
In all honesty, the collaborator with the private sector in connection with practitioners, I think might be one of the most obvious challenges with this, and that's the reason why. Because if you're newer, you may not have those connections, right? You may not be able to know where to look for those resources to foster those connections. Sorry, I live really close to a train. I apologize. So you might not be able to connect with those people, initially. That's why, and this is not like a plug, but that's why I think Skype in the classroom is very, very helpful, because it connects people to those practitioners. And if you've never, I've had so many teachers who've never done Skype in the classroom before. And I think that when they started using it, once they got one under their belt, they started doing more and more and more and more and more. And so that kind of gave them that resource. But I think that could, without something like Skype in the classroom, that could be hard for someone to find on their own.
And agreed. And Arnaud, sorry, I hope I didn't pronounce your name incorrectly, but your collaborator with a private sector, I agree with you. That's what this can do for you. Having these Skype connections allows you to reach out to organizations like the Intrepid Museum, and your students will have content become relevant for them. It's that real world connection. So absolutely. And that number 2 is also popped up as a difficult choice. 2 and 3, 4 and 5, they're all a little bit tough to do, and 1 as well is showing up. But I have to agree with you, Frantz, because I think if we can show teachers that they can use tools like Skype in the classroom, that's actually coaching them to be better STEM educators. So actually, let's jump in for just a moment. And we asked you a little bit already, but out of these questions, Frantz, why do you feel, and you kind of answered number 1, so let's just jump to number 2. How do these experiences influence students' possible curiosity to join a STEM career?
So I'll give you a really quick anecdote. Going back to I want to say 1995, because I was in kindergarten in 1995. When I don't know why I remember this, but I remember when I was in kindergarten, I was it was a career day. A firefighter came in and was saying all the dangers of being a firefighter. I had dreams of being a firefighter until that day. Then I went home and I realized I didn't want to be a firefighter ever again. So I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? I don't know. I was having some crisis at 5 years old. But Bill Nye the Science Guy came on TV. And ever since then, I've been enthralled with science, right? And so that little anecdote is not saying that will happen to everyone. But it's just to say that sometimes people don't know the possibilities of career fields without them being exposed to it, right? So not only do we talk about specifically, you'll see if you come to one of our virtual programs, you'll see that we talk specifically about astronauts, right, and space science and STEM in space. So a lot of kids have even told me that, I want to be an astronaut. But even what I do, because even with me watching Bill Nye the Science Guy, I realized I wanted to do astronomy and all this other stuff, but it eventually turned into me doing something like Bill Nye does, talking about science, right? And that's another field of STEM, of STEM careers that a lot of people don't know exists. that you can work in a museum and talk about STEM education and talk about STEM careers without necessarily having to be a scientist, right? So I think it just opens up, it just broadens the horizons, especially with space technology and space exploration and the environment, all of these things being in the forefront. This is stuff that kids are seeing, this is stuff that students are seeing every single day. So I think just exposing them to it actually may potentially drive people to want to pursue careers in STEM.
Exactly. And I think that's the reason why we want to do two things here today. One, we're going to take you through the Skype in the Classroom website where you can sign up for these things. We're going to show you how to connect with Frantz. And then, my friends, he's going to take you on your own virtual field trip for teachers. And for those of you who know me, teacher field trips are my favorite thing in the entire world, because teachers need to be inspired just like students do. And it's really kind of awesome when we get to be the student. So when I reached out to Frantz, I was like, can you take some teachers on a really cool adventure? He's like, I got this for you. So let's go exploring just a little bit. We're going to explore in the Skype in the Classroom website. When you come here, you're going to have all of these options of things that are available, from educator guides to parent guides and live on demand elements. But we are going to go up to the top where it says find classrooms, activities and classrooms. And this is where all the magic happens, my friends. You can scroll through the list if you wish, or you can narrow down what you're looking for. And today we're looking at virtual field trips. So we're going to narrow those elements to that. And I do have the ability to search by topic. So if I want to look for things specifically to science, I can do so. And I can adjust it by age range. So I'm going to narrow it down because I work with middle school students. So I'm going to play in this numbers here. And I can also narrow it down in minutes. So if I have just a little bit of time, I can choose to do that. So in all of these, I can take a look. I've got one on marine mammals. And when you come to this particular page, and we'll go take a look at Frantz's here in just a moment, they're going to give you the objectives and some information about that event. And when I choose to request this session, I will notice that there are options available by week, by month, or by day. And you'll notice that here the marine mammal adaptations has two different options. When I click on this one, you'll notice that some are in red and some are in blue. And sometimes you'll see it in purple. That happens when I click on one of these options. I can look at my schedule, and if I am face-to-face with students, maybe I can say I'll do a couple of these options. I'm not guaranteed all of them. I'm really just giving that partner, that content partner, so here's my availability, which of these matches with what I can do for you. And when I hit the continue button, now I will have the ability to choose how many students are going to be in the room. I'm going to jump to that number. And then there's some elements in here for me to respond and give feedback of what it is that I'm looking for students. This is all really important that you fill it out, but there's one more thing that's critical that you need to do. When you come into Skype in the Classroom, you'll need to make sure that your profile is up to date so that Frantz and all the other content partners know who you are. You're a teacher and you work with middle school students, and that you are excited to connect with us from your location of Kansas. It is important, and I would say super important, that not only do you put your email information in here, but you check this box right down in the corner. That's the box that allows Frantz to see my email and have us go back and forth and ask questions and set up an event, especially if I'm going to be using Microsoft Teams. When we use Teams, here's the bonus part, friends, and I hope you're listening and leaning in. When we use Teams, not only will Frantz and I set up the live call, if my students are remote, I can take that link and send it to all of the children at home so they and their families can join in, and we're on a virtual field trip as a group event. And instead of the students saying, I asked my son, "What'd you do at school today?" "I don't know." Hey, we're all on this field trip together. And Franz, I think you like to hang out with little people as well as big people. Am I right to say that?
Definitely. I think that these experiences, Lanny could let me know if this is true in the chat. These experiences, I think a lot of teachers get a lot out of it too. I've had teachers who, emailed me back and said, I want to come to the museum after going on that virtual field trip. So yeah, definitely for both. And if I can say that the website is very, very good at pairing you up with exactly what you need to find. As Diane said, like, looking up, just searching by keywords. It's super important to be like, oh, we're talking about this in school. Let me look up this to see if they have something that, that can connect to what we're talking about in class. It's almost like a dating, almost like a dating website between teachers and organizations. So it works perfectly.
Indeed. And that's what I did here. I just searched for science. Thanks for the prompt on that one, Franz.
Yeah.
And when I request this session, and as I told you before, we're going to select, I'm going to choose something today, maybe tomorrow or Friday. And then once I press continue, I'll again say that I'll have 20 to 30 students. Here's where I'm going to choose that I'm working with 14 and 12 to 14-year-olds. And then he has some questions in here. Do we have students connecting from home? And I'm going to say yes, several. And do we have any special requirements? And I might say things like you have to forgive me when people watch me type, I always misspell. We love to learn more about the space shuttle and its history. So that allows Franz to know, like, okay, I better pull out some of the great information that I can share with students so we can meet right where they need us. Then I'm going to press continue. And from here it says, I'm asking for these particular sessions. Does that work? I'll go back to my calendar and now I will see that these options are in purple saying those are the requests that I've put in. It's just that simple. And if I went too quickly or you're like, how did I do all of that again? Here's the key. At the top of the screen, go up to resources and educators. And when you come here, you're going to scroll to 2 spots. First, we're going to go to the bottom and you're going to look for the pillow that says, let's go everywhere. This is a guide to help you do the Teams connections that we were talking about. So all of your students, no matter where they are and their families, can join in. You'll want to click here and just choose the download. And there's another tremendous resource right here at the top that you'll want to look in a little closer at. These are the resources for remote learning and for hybrid learning. They've already created everything for you to make it magically easy to start engaging with Skype in the classroom wherever your students are. So that is the tour on my end. And Franz, I'm going to hand the screen over to you so we can go on an adventure.
Awesome. So just so everyone knows, with everything that's happened, we can't be on the ship right now. We're working at getting that up and running, hopefully soon. But what I did was I actually went on the ship kind of close to when we closed back in March, and I did some filming. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen. Just got to open this up. I'm going to share my screen to a video that I've done of the Intrepid. You guys can kind of let me know in the chat, like with a okay or thumbs up, or say yes if you can see it, so everyone can see it there. Okay, awesome. Cool. So we start off here at the Intrepid, and this is a very abridged version of what we would be talking about. The name of the entire museum is the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. This right here is a Lego version of the Intrepid. I start visitors here so that way they can get an idea of what we're looking at, right? Just like you guys. So this is the Intrepid, made back in 1943, served in 3 wars, World War II, Vietnam, and the Cold War, right? So we have the sea part. This is the reason why we're a sea museum, right? Because we have a large propeller, right? We were a seafaring vessel that would have been in the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean during those wars, right? We're also an air museum specifically because the Intrepid used to be an active aircraft carrier. It used to carry aircraft and launch and land them like airports in the water, right? And then if you go down here, you see that we have helicopters and things of that nature. But when it comes to space, a lot of people don't really know why we're a space museum, and it all has to do with things like this, right? This is a space capsule. This is the Mercury Aurora 7 capsule. This capsule had one astronaut inside of it, Scott Carpenter. He went up into outer space, did 3 orbits around the Earth, and then he splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean, where the Intrepid picked up him, and the capsule was picked up a little bit later. So our connection to outer space at the Intrepid Sea and Space Museum is that the Intrepid was a recovery vessel for NASA. So it picked up this capsule, and also this gentleman here that I pointed to, and also this gentleman as well. The other gentleman was in the picture, excuse me, John Young. But they went into space inside of that capsule, did 3 orbits around the Earth. They splashed down the Atlantic Ocean and were picked up by the Intrepid. You can even see the sailors looking out as they got picked up. So we talk a little bit about what they did during the mission. Like, for instance, this one, they ate a corned beef sandwich that they stowed away. They weren't supposed to, but they decided to do it anyway. This is what old space food used to look like. And the reason why they couldn't eat, anyone want to take a guess? That's not Lanny. Anyone want to take a guess in the chat why you can't eat a corned beef sandwich in outer space? Oh, wow, someone's dad served on Intrepid. That's awesome. Anyone want to take a guess why you can't eat bread in space?
They're typing away, but I'm going to think on it for just a moment.
Yeah.
Having a corned beef sandwich in space, might be a little messy, but it could be the fact that when I eat, I get half of it in my lap. Is that part of the reason?
Exactly. So as they started eating the sandwich, they noticed crumbs were floating around. And those crumbs could have gotten stuck inside of things like their eyes or their throat or even their ventilation system, which could have caused them to have a very bad day in space. But they were perfectly fine. And now you can eat more solid food in outer space. And speaking of space, and space being different, by the way, this is the capsule. This is a replica. All of these have been replicas. But speaking of space and how weird space is, one of the coolest things that we do during this program is we go up here to this area that we do this cool experiment where we talk about being in outer space without a spacesuit, right? So right here we have this container that's going to act as a vacuum. All right, because we're going to take all the air out of the container and we're going to test 3 different things. The first thing we'll test is water, because water makes up most of the human body. So this is something that we probably should test, right? So as we turn this on and we look at the water, what I normally would ask students to do is take guesses. Let me know what they think would happen to the water if it's in this vacuum. Anybody have any guesses? Do you have any guesses, Diane? What do you think will happen to the water?
What I think will happen to the water in space?
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's not going to stay in its container.
So you think it's gonna come out?
I do.
So it's a really good guess, and you're not wrong, actually, because as we take the air out of this container, we're actually getting rid of the atmospheric pressure of our planet. Water here on our planet can boil in 2 different ways. One, adding heat to it, right? But also just removing pressure. And as you can see here, the water is inside of this jar, and it's effectively boiling right now. And all we're doing is taking the air out of the jar. So this is something that's very, very highly visual to see. Another highly visual thing that we can see is what would happen to our lungs, or kind of what would happen to our lungs if we were in space without a spacesuit. Now, by the way, this water wasn't hot. That's another important thing to note. This water actually stayed room temperature, didn't change. But here we have 2 balloons. The red balloon is going to represent us breathing in. The blue balloon is going to represent us breathing out. And when we look at this inside of our jar, when we take the air out, the atmosphere is taken out as well. So the air inside of the balloons want to spread out. And so it spreads out and causes these balloons to start to inflate. More specifically, the red one, you breathing in. And this is a question I ask kids. I ask them if they're about to be sucked out into the vacuum of outer space, if it's a good idea to fill your lungs up with air. And so after seeing this, a lot of the students change their answer to no, it's not a good idea. And this is, pretty much what would happen to our lungs. They will expand inside of our chest. And then lastly, to talk about solids, we use a marshmallow, which is pretty funny. Kids really get a kick out of putting the marshmallow inside of the jar. But when we take the air out, the air pockets inside of the marshmallow actually cause the marshmallow itself to expand, as you're seeing there. As it
Which I
starts
thought
to
was really interesting, because if you've ever put a marshmallow in a microwave, it also expands. So similar process.
Okay. And actually, what we've done also is during around Easter, we've used peeps inside too, which
so fun.
Same happens with peeps, which is really fun. But after a while, the air escapes the marshmallow. And now the marshmallow kind of starts to shrink back down slightly because the air is leaving. But when we return this back to the atmospheric pressure of our planet, we notice that the air pockets that were inside no longer are there to give the marshmallow its shape. So the marshmallow ends up collapsing on itself due to the atmospheric pressure.
And normally we had a question last week on your live piece, and the students were like, can you still eat it? Is it okay to eat?
Yeah, normally I usually eat it. I take a bite out of it, and kids think it's gross. It actually tastes exactly the same. It just feels very, very weird. And then what's really cool about this is normally I would end the call because we don't have Wi-Fi going up the stairs to go upstairs to check out the space shuttle. But because I did a video, movie magic, now we're upstairs and we can check out the space shuttle, which is really cool. So on top of all of this, we also have the very first space shuttle here at the Intrepid. So I'll just leave this playing so you guys can see it. And if you have any questions, you could let us know. But this is just a little brief part of our programs that we have, our program that we have at the Intrepid. Highly visual, as you can see, and very, very fun.
So tell me one of your favorite fun facts around the Enterprise.
Around the Enterprise, well, probably I like this fact, but it's probably one of the most disappointing facts about it. Although it's the first space shuttle, it's the real deal Holyfield. It's the only space shuttle that we built that didn't go into space, right? So this was the prototype of the space shuttle. Its job was to make sure we were working backwards, right? We were trying to see if we can actually create something that could glide through Earth's atmosphere and land on a runway just like an airplane. So we had to make sure that this thing could come back home safely. So this did that test. Back in 1977. So my favorite fact about the Enterprise is the fact that it never went into space. It just did this test that you see here. It was strapped to the back of an airplane, and then it was taken up to about 26,000 feet and let go. And then it just pretty much becomes a paper airplane at that point, a glider just gliding through the sky. So that's definitely my favorite fact about it.
But it did land it had a pilot and everything.
It did land, yep. And so in this video, we actually see the end of it first. So in this, you'll see that it actually does lands just like an airplane on a very, very long runway. And this is how all the space shuttles came back. They came back by landing on a runway. And if the Enterprise wasn't built to show that we can do this, then we wouldn't have known that this technology was possible. So.
Do students find it when they're on the boat just enamored by the size of it's just so big?
Yeah, so I think if we can go, I love whenever I bring a group up here and we walk through this tunnel. This is a tunnel that everyone walks through when they first come in. I ask visitors to look down at their feet. Because if you were taller and you looked over here, you can actually see the space shuttle peeking in. But if you look at your feet and then when I tell you to look up, it's almost breathtaking how massive this thing truly is. And that you wouldn't expect this to be inside of a building, right? Or inside of like a hangar type thing that looks like this. So it's pretty breathtaking. A lot of people are amazed by that. I will say though.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I was gonna say, I will say, interestingly enough, I think the size doesn't translate as much over video. So kids are like, oh, okay, it looks pretty awesome, but I don't realize how big it is until I tell them how truly big it is. It's about 100 feet long and about 70 feet wide. And it weighs 150,000 pounds. So it's massive. It's really big.
It is massive. And if anyone has questions they'd like to ask us about the Enterprise or the entire museum, please go ahead and put those in the chat. This is your chance to talk to them. And one more question. How many people could ride in a shuttle?
In a shuttle, so about 8 people, because right here in the front, this area here was pretty much the space for the astronauts. There's like a gray line here. So from this gray line all the way over to here. But where it says Enterprise all the way down to where you're going to see it says NASA, that's the Payload Bay. So most of this is cargo space. to bring up really, really big and heavy things.
Kind of like a semi truck where you sit in the cab of the truck, but you carry all of the goods in the back.
Exactly. That's why we actually refer to this as a space truck, because that's pretty much what it is. We were bringing capsules and astronauts up into space for exploration, but when it came to time to build things in space, we needed a truck. So that's why they built the space shuttles.
And that's a different kind of driver's license, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, it takes a little bit more. You don't really have to worry about K-turning. Just worry about traveling at hypersonic speeds.
Yep, pretty simple all the way around. And just a reminder for those of us in the audience, when did the Space Shuttle program retire the shuttles?
So the Space Shuttle program was retired back in 2011. So we actually haven't been using space shuttles in 2011 since 2011. We actually in the United States haven't been sending up astronauts in outer space up until a couple of weeks ago. That was the first time that we sent an astronaut from U.S. soil into outer space. But in the interim, what we had been doing was buying seats on this. And this is the Soyuz capsule. This is the only thing that I've shown you that has truly been in outer space today. And this brings up astronauts to the International Space Station, astronauts and supplies. Different space agencies paid for a seat on these to send their astronauts up to the International Space Station. You can see inside how cramped it is. Kids get a kick out of looking at inside of it, because if you're claustrophobic, that's not the place to be.
Indeed, and it's not like you're on there for an hour. It's hours, almost full day before you get docked to the space station.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I just read maybe 3 or 4 days ago that those who went up on SpaceX have just reached past their halfway point of their mission. So
Yep.
they're on that downward trend and will be coming back to space, back to Earth here soon. So I love it. And let me switch back over to that teacher hat for just a moment. These experiences, like what you're watching Frantz and I have, or the questions that you might be thinking about to put in the chat, that's what's really great about these live experiences, that your students' curiosities are the ones that get answered. They can't just go onto the internet and search for these questions easily, because we always don't know what the information they're going to find is a valid resource, or if it's written at an age-appropriate level for them to comprehend the answers. But when you get to talk to someone like Frantz, who does this for a living, he can make sure that that student's question makes sense in the response back to that student. And that's what makes it magical all the way around. So that's why I love this so much. And thanks for the field trip, buddy.
No problem. And even to jump to piggyback on what you just said, Lanny said something a little bit earlier that I always say, and that's the ownership part. Being able to claim ownership over the museum. I think that's something that's tremendous, not only for individuals in New York City, because that's something that we aim for at our museum, is for inhabitants of New York City to realize this is something that they can use, but we also stress global ownership. Like, this museum is not only for people who live in New York, right? It's for individuals who live in Wales, and people who live in Wales can say that I've been to this museum, I've experienced this museum in the way that I wanted to experience it. It wasn't something that was done like, you know, how I didn't want to see it. I got to see things that I wanted to see. I got to ask questions specifically that I wanted to ask. That's why another thing I'm really big on is having the students ask the questions themselves, and to kind of push themselves out of that comfort zone, to engage with someone that they'd never engaged with before. So there's multifaceted benefits to this program.
Indeed. And I want to piggyback again on what you said, is when you talked about having the students ask their own questions. Having our students come up in front of a camera and be brave and courageous enough to say, this is my question. And it might take me a few extra seconds to make sure I want to say it just the way I want to say it. And I may have been so focused on my question that it may have been a question that was already asked from another student, but I wanted to make sure it was right. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot of courage for a child to do that. And we are actually giving them real world context to speaking and listening skills. So that's one more advantage to doing these live calls. All right, let's jump back in. And I want to point out a couple more pieces. One is that we do have live events every Wednesday. Just like Frantz did here with you today, he also did one last week with students all over the globe. And he gave them a similar tour that you experienced today. You can access all of these at the link you see here. And I think Kelly's going to put it in the chat for us. And if you want, you'll also notice that there are future events happening. Oh, Frantz, we're going to Greece tomorrow. You should join us.
That sounds awesome.
Go, right? We're going to go listen to someone who's an archaeologist and talk about some of the excavations they're doing on an ancient Greek site. And I cannot tell you how excited I'm about that one. Talk about something that I would never be able to do with students in Kansas, right? But I can go to Greece, right, at my house, which is so great. And then we also have a desert thing coming up with California State Park. Then we're going to talk sharks in Florida. And August 12th, friends, mark your calendar. It is World Elephant Day, and we're going to be working with the Elephant Sanctuary on a live event. Frantz, are you putting it on your calendar?
Yes, it sounds awesome.
I can't wait. And just another couple of pieces about our live events is that not only are they accessible anywhere, anytime, remember we talked about that it can be something for families to join in and be a part of. And because they're archived, you can make them homework assignments. So if you're getting ready to do a space unit, let's say you're going to do that in November, you're like, oh, I remember Frantz did that with us. It's accessible on our webpage. So you can go watch the archive and make that an assignment for students so they have a little bit more independence in what they're learning. They can rewind if they didn't catch the answer real quickly, and they can listen to it again, just like he was showing us as we went exploring in that exhibit where the shuttle was. Engages with all the family to be a part of it. And I don't know, friends, I hope you saw Frantz is an engaging guy. He's someone we can enjoy working with our students. And if he's as excited about his career, that's going to be contagious to the excitement for our students. So definitely a great opportunity. And again, when you go look at our Skype in the Classroom archived pieces, they're on the live events page. There's a button in there or a page for you to see that. You just look for Dr. Jane Goodall and you'll see the access to all of those that are there. Or you can access them on the Microsoft EDU YouTube channel. And one more piece. You might want to like our Facebook page, because here's where we're going to put all of those events and you can add those to your calendar. There's also a Skype in the Classroom Enthusiast Facebook group, so you can find other teachers who are just as excited as I am about these things and connect with them as you go all over the world with your students. And that takes us on our journey for today. And Kelly is going to give us the link to today's certificate, so you can download that for today. But before we go, I want to give a chance for anyone in the audience to post any questions that they may have. Anything that you would like to have answered about Intrepid or Skype in the Classroom. And while they're thinking on that one, Frantz, any last thoughts of what you are excited about as you connect with maybe dozens and dozens of more students this year?
Yes, and it's just the opportunity. Diane, you said it perfectly when you just said, Greece to Kansas to Greece. I've had teachers that tell me that, some of them are in areas where, socioeconomically, it's lower. And so, teachers tell me that, some of their students will never even leave, statistically speaking, they will never even leave their city. So to give them the opportunity to go somewhere, not only somewhere next city over or next state over, the next country over, to give them that opportunity to me is invaluable. And I just see for someone anecdotally and someone, just being in the space subjectively, I just see it working. And so I can talk about it all day, honestly, how great a person this is.
Imagine the day when one of my students who has the gift to come to New York when the world is healthy and they have the opportunities again, and they come knock on your door and they'll say, Frantz, you probably don't remember me, but you took me on this field trip. How amazing will that going to be?
The day I've yet to meet a student that did a virtual program with me at the museum. The day that it happens, I'm not even kidding, I might tear up a bit, just because it's just something that's just This has been my life for the last 4 years, and the museum has luckily just jumped right onto it and loved it. So it's just been great. And so I'm truly inspired by this, and I constantly can talk about it. I just love it.
Well, I could too, but we probably let these folks get back to the explorations as they can go explore our website and explore the Intrepid Air, Sea, and Space Museum as well. So thank you for joining us today, friends. And next week, join us, come back again, same time, as we're going to do another Teacher PD event as we explore literacy and how that can be opening new doors of SEL connections for your students through Skype in the classroom. So we'll see you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.